Hi scientists, I'm Scientist Taylor. We're here at Junior Achievement Biztown, one of the many unique buildings DJ Construction has done. Let's learn about what DJ does. We're here today with Matt Schrock, Vice President of DJ Construction. Welcome, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Taylor, I appreciate that.
Of course. Can you tell us a little bit about DJ Construction?
Yeah, sure can, I'd love to. So, short story is the company, we're in our 70th year of business. So started in 1954, so it's been going a pretty long time. I am part of the third generation of the Schrock family that's owned the company. And so currently we serve two specific markets. So Elkhart County is our main hub. That's where our office has been for all of those 70 years. And then we have an office in Kalamazoo, Michigan as well that opened a few years ago. Between those two, we have about 80 team members and been very blessed and grown a lot. But we're always at our heart, we're going to be a community-based organization. So we're not looking to travel the whole Midwest. We just work in a small footprint around those two offices.
Awesome. When you were a kid, did you know you wanted to go into construction?
Actually, no. Oddly enough, I had really no intention of going into construction. I always thought DJ was a great company, but I was concerned because, you know, my dad ran the company for a long time, and I said, Dad, I'm not a construction guy. I don't want to just be Bob's kid that has a corner office. And so went and did some other things. I was in the golf business for a while and ended up getting a chance to come back to the company. And I started from, I would call it from early learning positions in the company. And I had to learn the construction process. I didn't have to be the #1 expert of everything in construction in our office, but I needed to know it to a good extent, which I've worked really hard at that. But for me, my role is really more about the people, the culture, what makes DJ special. And, you know, it's worked well, I think, because if I believe in the team and can fight to get them opportunities, then that's really how I can serve the company best. So that's really my role. I've been at DJ now on this stint for about 12 years, and it's been a wonderful experience.
Very cool. Can you help us understand the building process?
Yeah, it is a pretty complex process. So it's not as simple as just, hey, here's a building unit out of Legos or something and just stack and move it to another spot. Everything that we do really is a custom project. And so what a lot of people don't think about is you typically have a number of months of planning and programming, trying to understand the space, because we could always come back and say, hey, here's a solution for you. But for us, it's more about what does that client need? And we don't want them living in our building. We want them living in the building that works for them. And so that process can take a little bit of time. We like to help develop through that process. And then, yeah, in construction, certainly clearing the land and pouring the footings and the foundation wall, and then the walls, you see the walls or the steel coming up out of the ground, and then you start seeing it get covered, you know, insulated, sided, and all those type of things. And so the whole process has a lot of steps to it. I'm always amazed that our project managers and then our on-site superintendents, they're great at managing that process, making the difficult look simple. So they do a great job.
Does gravity influence how you build?
Yeah, it certainly does. One of the things that I like to think about in this scenario is when you talk about the clear span of a building, right? How wide you can have the span that's open with no posts or columns in the middle. So gravity definitely plays a role in that. That's where the role of an engineer, somebody that can look at the size and the strength capacity, the load capacity of different structures, whether it's like a steel I-beam or like wood bond beams that are put together. But we have to evaluate all those things. What is the distance that has to be covered and then how much structure is needed to make that span. All those things definitely play into understanding how much something weighs, understanding the force of gravity. So it's certainly something we have to think about.
What type of qualifications do you need to work at DJ Construction?
That's a great question. It can vary. We have a lot of different types of roles at DJ. So we have both office staff and field staff. Some of our field team members are coming to us with no experience and no qualifications. That does happen. They usually start as a general laborer, and then they work their way up to a carpenter, a foreman, and then a site superintendent. In the office, so we have a number of roles there too. We have construction designers, so we have a design team. We have registered engineers, and then we have project managers and a few other roles, development type roles. Our project managers too, they're not just running one project at a time. Usually they have 3 to 5 at a time, and so they're busy. They have to be very detail oriented, and so we're really blessed because the group we have now, they're very good at construction, but also good with people, and you have to have both to do it well.
Absolutely. What kind of tools do you use to lift heavy things off the ground?
Well, when we're putting together some of the projects that we're doing, a lot of times you're gonna look at a crane it's gonna pick up, big wood trusses or big steel I-beams, and because they have to go high and be able to lever out, a crane becomes very important on a lot of projects for us. Those portions of the project are very important. We have meetings that we call going vertical meetings, and one from a safety perspective, when you start having things like trusses and I-beams and swinging overhead and cranes and forklifts, you want to make sure everyone knows what's going on, so everyone is safe on the job. But yeah, certainly some of those big equipment, they're really cool to watch, but you also need to have an awareness of what's going on around you. And then the other thing I was going to say with that is, that works well, but then when you get above, 3 or 4 stories, now all of a sudden you need different equipment, and tower cranes and other things like that. We don't see as much of that around here, but you get a little bit of that. And it's just a whole nother element to the planning process, where if things are up a number of floors, how are you going to get your materials up and down? That's a real thing to consider. The logistics of and time of going up and down stairs or elevators or loading stuff into a forklift, that matters when you're planning how much labor we need for a project.
What is the largest building you've constructed?
In terms of just the footprint size of it, right around 300,000 square feet. So you're talking about something that's like 7 acres under roof, if that helps. I don't know, if people are listening, a lot of homes and neighborhoods are on maybe a half-acre lot. And if that's the case, then it'd be something the size of that lot 14 times under one roof. So it's a pretty large building. I know there are others that are even bigger than that, obviously. The Amazon building that's not far from here, I think was close to 900,000 square feet. So, 20 acres or so under one roof. So they can get quite large.
Mm-hmm. What are some buildings around here that we would recognize?
Yeah, so I'll just mention a few of them. One, we're standing in one of them. So for Junior Achievement, we were able to do the Biztown here, and I know this was a fun project. Our guys have told me that. It wasn't necessarily our largest project, but the craftsmanship side, coming back to that part of their job, where a lot of projects we do are often kind of routine, and it's just, framing walls that are kind of the same going on. This one, every cut of every building was a different cut and a different look, a different shape. And so it really allowed them to have that creativity as craftsmen. So I know they love that. A couple others to mention, we just finished recently the new Tolson Center that's on Benham, going towards downtown Elkhart. So that's a really cool space. The architects on that, we weren't the designers on that specific project. Sometimes we are, but they were great to work with out of Indianapolis and did a good job. And then Lifeline Youth Ministries, that would be on Prairie Street. So again, not super far from here. 50,000 square feet of just space that's dedicated to young people, which is awesome. Love that they're doing that. One one other one, the Early Learning Center at Hubbard Hill. So it's a pre-K, preschool, really neat concept of what they're doing there. And so we got to be a part of that on Hubbard Hill's campus, a new facility, and just seeing what it's being used for. That's probably the most fun part, is seeing these buildings get used by whether it's kids or families or whoever, and it's hopefully making an impact on the community.
What's been your favorite project?
If I had to pick one, Taylor, since you're putting me on the spot, which is totally fine, there's a lot of great ones. I think for me, it's always going to go back to something that's very kids and family driven, just because the nature of DJ, what we would call our community impact purpose is to put a dent in the fatherless epidemic. And so I would think something like Lifeline Ministries, Boys and Girls Clubs, Junior Achievements, a great one. All of them are cool, and we've been on some really neat projects, but the ones that are really hitting the mark on kids and families those are my favorite ones.
What is something that you've learned since working at DJ Construction?
Yeah, I think what I've learned is the people side of business is really important, right? It's one thing to know all the answers, but those aren't always the people that are the most successful. It's knowing how to work with people, and you have to be willing to understand what they're coming from and try to understand, their vision for what they're trying to do, or maybe difficulties that they're having. Putting yourself in those shoes and being very empathetic to what they're going through, that carries a lot of weight. I've never met anyone that wasn't happy getting to talk about the things that are important to them, right? You give somebody a chance to talk about, and you're interested in the things that they're interested in, people love that. And so when you can do that in a very genuine way, get to know people, get to know what's important to them, it's amazing how far that goes. Yes, we have to be really good at construction for it to matter, but if we're just that and not also good with people and take good care of people, the other stuff's not going to matter a whole lot either. And so I would say that's probably one of my big takeaways from my time at DJ.
Matt, do you have any advice for our young scientists?
So for a young scientist, science, I think, is really, you're trying to learn and understand and evaluate. You're putting out theories for, why things are happening. One of the best things that we do in our process when we're guiding a client through programming their spaces, it's really important to ask questions, right? And so, because what ends up happening is a client will often give you their wish list of everything that they want. And inevitably, the cost of all of those wishes are more than they wish to be paying for this. But the process of finding ways to keep the intent of what they're looking for at a better cost effectiveness, it is a real process where we're going through and saying, okay, what about this? What about that? We've done this in a different application. Could we do it here? And so we have, our project engineers and project managers, site superintendents are all getting together to talk about solutions. How do we do this? How do we think about this differently, right? And I think that's kind of what science really is, if one theory doesn't really work and pan out, we try to come up with another one and figure out something else that works. So that it's not exactly the same, but it is a similar process, a similar mindset, where we don't just get stuck into this is the only way we do things and we're never going to change them.
Very cool. Matt, thank you so much for spending so much time with us today. We really appreciated it.
Taylor, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.